a traitor to myself, I be.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Good evening, it's Tuesday night, and as the clues are on the tin, it's the Tuesday night show, and welcome along. Normally, if it's on a Tuesday night, we'd be sat here, me and my Tuesday night buddy Craig, looking back at the weekend's game, which was a win, a 1-0 win away to Arsenal, probably a tactical masterclass by Brendan, and looking forward to the weekend game. But as I'm sure many of you know, it was actually 2 years ago this very day when our chairman and owner at the time, Vichai, known as the boss, as you can see from behind me, was sadly taken away from us in a helicopter crash. So tonight we're just going to talk about Vichai and our memories of him, what he meant to us all, the effect he's had on us all, and the effect he's had on the club and the area, really. Just to let you know, if you're on Facebook, and you're obviously going to be watching this, if you are on Facebook, you can't watch it any other way, and you want to join in, feel free to comment. Please click and register at StreamYard. It is free, there's no charge, there's no downloading of anything. All it means is that we can just see your names when you post. So a couple of messages from Facebook users, which is how you show, so we can't give you a shout out or anything. An evening, Chris from Hello Evening Facebook user. Don't know who you are. Good evening, David Gamble. Welcome along. Thanks for joining us. Best boss city I've known, and I've been following City since 1943. He was, I can say, I remember the match. I wasn't at the match because most of you that will know me know that I live down on the south coast, just outside Bournemouth. And I was supposed to go to the game. I'd got a season ticket that year, and for whatever reason, and I can't for the life of remember what it was, I didn't go to the game. As I remember, it wasn't a particularly exciting game. It was West Ham. We managed to get, I think, a draw at the end of the day. Claude was under, well, then Boss was under a bit of pressure. And I'd come on and I'd done all the LeicesterTillIDie.com bit on the website, loaded the player manager ratings up, man of the match report, went and sat down with a cider for what I thought was going to be a normal night, watching the telly, and my phone suddenly started going mad. And the whole thing, as I'm sure we know, just, exploded, worked out. And it's hard even now, 2 years on, and it's hard to think that it's 2 years, but, what this man gave to us is probably, we can't, put it into words. I will going to get my colleague Craig in a minute just to sort of join us and talk about his memories, but this is the one thing I always think of when I think of the boss, and that was he is the boss that every other club would have wanted. I think if any other club had, could have an owner, it would have been Vichai. I'll bring in Craig and say good evening, Craig. Would you agree with that?
Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I would definitely agree with it. It's we've seen so many owners come into the Premier League down the years, some good, some bad, but I don't think anyone has been held in such high esteem as the boss was, and that's by the fans of other clubs as well, owners of other clubs. I think they recognise what he did for the not only the football club, for the city. And I think if you're a Leicester fan, if you're a football fan, I think you would have had have spent the last 10 years, since 2010 when he bought the club. I think you'd have had to spend the last 10 years on the International Space Station to not have been touched by what this man did for our football club and did in football in general. He showed a different way to come in and be respectful of the traditions and history of a football club, and not want to change it um, for his own benefit. You know, everything he did had the respect of the history of the football club, and for the respect of the fans who had come before him, at its core. And as you say, he was the owner that everyone would have wanted.
I mean, I think obviously because of the story that happened at Leicester after he took over from us, he was sort of more well known, I suppose, than a lot of owners, and it pushed him, a quiet man, really, pushed him into the spotlight. And you know, just picking up on what you said there, and this was something that came up the other day, and I'm sure it was. Milan may still have been here, but I think it was almost definitely under Vichai's reign. Was that we looked at possibly changing the name of the club back to Leicester Force, but he just didn't go out and do it. You know, as we know, and no disrespect to the chairman of Cardiff, because Cardiff were wonderful afterwards as a club, but you know, he would go in and he would change things around without even consulting the fans. You know, that was his first big decision. New owners, do we change the name? Do we go back to Leicester Force, a bit of uniqueness? And he went and asked the fans, and that sums him up.
Yeah, as I say, I don't think when it comes to something that affects the club that fundamentally, I think he would never have done anything without taking on board the views of the fans. You know, from a business perspective, yeah, he made some tough decisions, but I think he did even that in a respectful way. You know, he came across as a sort of a very friendly and sentimental man in many ways, I think, and sentimental from the historical point of view. But when it came to business decisions, there was no sentiment there. He made the decisions on what he thought was best for the football club, because he knew that at the end of it, that's what the fans want. The fans wanted a successful football club. So whether, you know, some of us didn't agree with some of the decisions that were made, and I'm sure, you know, some of those decisions were very Marmite to a lot of fans. You know, he made them wanting to make the football club better, and doing it respectfully as well. And you know, even those that have left, you know, I think it's telling that those who have left, no one's said a bad word about him. And obviously, when he passed, many of those people came back to pay their respects to him, because he had that effect on people. Just a rare person that I think we as Leicester fans and people of the city of Leicester were lucky to have.
Yeah, I think. This is my personal view: is that I never met the guy. I was never lucky enough to meet him. Never shook his hand. Never bumped into him. But I just felt like I knew him.
Yeah, I did manage to shake his hand once when he came round to the pitch, around the pitch at one of the end of seasons, and so I'll treasure that obviously for forever. You know, it was before we knew what was going to ensue. I think it was before we won the league, but even everything that happened since, I can look back on that fondly. But you knew that when he walked around the pitch, chairman, owners, even players, sometimes they walk around the pitch out of a sense of duty. He walked around the pitch seeing it as an opportunity to actually get closer to the fans and meet as many as he could. And he reveled in it. He enjoyed it. You could see the smile on his face, that it was his opportunity to actually be there almost on the pitch with the players.
And I think this is why a lot of fans, you know, were accepting of some of the decisions he made, because, you know, I think if you like somebody, it is easy to make the decision. But, you know, I think we knew, you know, he wasn't, I mean, he's a businessman, of course he's a businessman, but he wasn't just in it, as some owners are, to make money. And I'm just going to bring a comment in there to say good evening to Andy Medhurst. Thanks for joining us, Andy. Can we also say thank you to Milan Mandrich for selling our club to such a great man. I mean, as I say, I live down here on the south coast, and you never know when clubs change hands. I mean, you know, we forget Milan. Milan saved our club probably from going bump again, and we wouldn't be where we were without him coming in. So we do owe him a debt of thanks. But I can remember Portsmouth is only sort of down the road from me, and when Milan owned Portsmouth, and he sold that off to a guy called Gaymart, I think it was, who was one of the biggest con men in the world. And I worried when I saw, oh, he's selling the club, because I thought Milan was going to be with us for a long time, but he didn't stay anywhere long. You know, he comes in, he makes money, but he saves clubs. And when I saw he was selling the club, having seen what had happened at Portsmouth, I must admit I was a little bit worried.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it was the early days of having owners who are not really connected with the club. I mean, those of us who are old enough, and forgive me, but I do include you in that, Chris. I've lived through all the sort of the Shipman years, the Martin George, Barry Pierpoint, obviously being a high profile, not necessarily a chairman or owner. But we've lived through many years, and almost the old way that football clubs were run as a board, you know, so a board of people who came together for a love of football and put their own money into it. And so Milan for us was really that first generation of an outsider coming into our club. So I don't think any of us knew what to expect. I think we just hoped for the best. Yes, we've had a few ups and downs in the subsequent years, but I think overall we've done a lot better with our owners than many other clubs, and obviously culminating in the fantastic owners that we have now. And I think you know, it's worth saying that his son is doing his father proud.
Yeah. Again, Facebook user there, a definition of a gentleman. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he just carried himself so well. He got on behind the scenes, maybe because his English wasn't as good as Cox was, and Cox did all the speaking and the interviews. But, you know, and I think that the first decision, and I remember thinking, like I say, going back to what I was saying about getting, I don't know, some of you just mentioned there, so whether you're having problems hearing me. Can you hear me okay, Craig?
I can. You're a little bit on the Dalek side, but I can hear you.
Right. It's funny. It was working all right the other day when we chatted. But I can remember the first thing that they did when they came in was ask Milan to stay on. I think it was 6 months he stayed on after the purchase. Because obviously there's something they'd never done before, which was run a club, and they didn't just come in and try and wing it. They used Milan, who was there, and that, you know, that was the first thing that made me think, you know, oh, these guys are, you know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure one of our esteemed viewers will remind me. I seem to remember that. I'm not sure whether it was under Mandarich, but whether was the birch being put out to seed.
That was
at some point. They brought him back because I think they recognised that the history and the special place that he had, and that was something that the fans clamoured for. And he addressed it, and he brought the birch back. I think there's so many things like that, so many little stories of what he did for the club. But as I say, always respectful of the history and respectful of the fans first and foremost. And I think that's the most telling thing, that he bought a football club, but with it he gained a family, and we gained them as a family as well. And he was really respectful, and he saw us as the fans as part of his extended family. It wasn't just a club he was buying. It wasn't. It was like the stepfather taking on all the kids as well as the house.
Yeah. Saying good evening to Matthew. Yeah, always in our hearts. You know, he will never ever be forgotten. I don't know what's happening with the statue. I take it that's going on, and it's just been delayed because of everything that's going on out there at the moment. Facebook user here, remember my 60-year-old son saying in the Flubbers then after he brought us free donuts. I mean, that was them free. I mean, I remember the first free beer, which I think was promised if we stayed up, and they stuck to it, But it was little things like that that endeared into the fans. And, you know, I'm just going to, I mean, I've got the sort of the book, the programme here from the next game after we passed, when all the chairman of the comments. And Mike Garlick, and this I know Mike, he's the Burnley chairman. I lived in Burnley for 25 years, and he owned a local shop. And he said, and I'm quoting here, at Leicester, you have the embodiment of a man who achieved in a relatively short time what all owners want for the clubs they hold so dear. And, you know, I think those are very true words.
It's funny. I think I remember in the early days of his tenure, when he'd been here a couple of years, and he came out and made the statement during a pre-season tour back in Thailand, that he held this press conference and talked about the fact that he was going to invest so that we would be in Europe within 3 years. And I think he said at the time it may cost him up to 180 million was the figure that he quoted to do it, but that doesn't scare him. And I do remember at the time speaking to friends of mine and saying, my God, another chairman spouting his mouth off. I wish they'd just be quiet, just get on with the job, and it'll take us where it takes us. Little did I know that within a year or so, you know, we'd be a Premier League champion. So he saw that vision, and he saw it through.
I think we all took it sort of a little bit with a pinch of salt when he said that, and you know, who knew? I mean, you know, the stories are that he saw it in the was it the League Cup final against Middlesbrough, the first game? That was the first football game that he'd seen, and he fell in love with us then, and possibly sort of the fighting spirit. And who knew all those years later that it would be us that he did invest in. But and I'm moving on to it wasn't, like I said at the start, it wasn't just a club that he bought, as a lot of footballers do. And you know, you can say, well, yes, they extend the training facilities to do this, but I can remember being at one match, and I think this was the first time that his generosity stood out to me. I was on the pitch before we get on half time. I can't remember, possibly half time, and somebody I think had cycled to all the away grounds to raise money for their son for an operation, and I think he was at 20,000 short of a nice round figure, and they just came out and gave him a check for the 20,000 to round it up, and you know, from that point on, he never stopped giving, did he?
No. I mean, there's so many little things, and again, you know, I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure that there was one game where he paid for I think a beer and a pie for all the away fans because of something that had happened. I can't remember whether it was trouble getting to the ground or whether there was something.
I remember. I can't say what it was, but I do remember it happening. Yes.
Yeah, and again that endeared him even further. And those are the little stories that folklore is made of. You know, I'm probably sure in 30, 40, 50 years time, some of these stories will embellished even more than he actually did. But those of us who were here and experienced it know that it was those little touches that meant so much to everyone. And as I say, he was a fan. You know, he was one of us. You know, I know it sounds cliche, but he was a fan at heart, and he saw things from a fan's perspective. You know, it wasn't just from a business perspective. He had the ability to see it from both sides, and that, as we know, is such a rare commodity.
It is, and again, just another quote here from I don't know if he still is, but Professor Boyer, who was President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Leicester. His legacy will live on in our hearts and minds through his support of football charities and the people of Leicester. And like I say, that is him. That sums him up. He sort of, you know, he didn't, you know, he knew he had to buy into the minds and souls of fans just as much as buying into the club. And you know, we will probably never see the likes of him again, apart from his son, as a footballer.
No, and I think what was also special, as you touched on there, is the fact that it wasn't just the football club, because he recognised the importance of the football club within the community. And you know, we're a one football club city, so he knew how much it meant to us, and how it's not just about the people who go to the game, manage to get tickets to attend the games. Football is for a much wider audience, and armchair fans or everything. But so every family would probably know a Leicester fan, and therefore it's spread out beyond that. And the things that he did in the community are sort of unrivaled, I think. Whether other chairmen and owners have done it, I'm not sure. I don't think we've ever heard of it, if they have. But there was a lot of talk about this is how things should be done. I've still not heard of other owners getting involved in the community. It was selfless. There was nothing coming back for him from donating to the university or donating to the hospital. I get the feeling that sometimes other things that are done in the names of owners or whatever, there's always a little kickback for them. But this was a continuation of selfless acts for the city of Leicester, of which the football club was just one part.
I mean, we mustn't forget, of course, on that tragic day, there was 4 other people in the helicopter. And I am not going to do them the injustice of trying to attempt to pronounce their names when I know I'm not going to be able to. But obviously, our thoughts on this anniversary are with them as well. But I mean, it was just a normal thing, wasn't it? I mean, like I say, you know, you saw the helicopter land. You know, you saw it, you know, take off. It was just like him getting on a train or, you know, getting in his car. It was just a ritual. And other than that, that's the thing as well. He was a chairman in presence as well as name. You know, he was there as much as his life and his business allowed him to be.
That's right. You see so many who just see it as a business opportunity and rarely attend, whereas he was there as often as he could, and his son obviously was there when he couldn't, and has now continued it. But you're right, he took it seriously. You know, he realised that it's not just a little plaything to enjoy for a bit. He took it seriously, so he wanted to be involved, and I think that's why he's so loved by everybody at the club, all the people who work there, all the players, because he took an interest in the club and he took an interest in them as individuals. We've heard several stories from players and ex-players of how he actually spoke to them on an individual basis and helped them out, whether it was even just, I think there was one where he was taking one of the players away in his helicopter so he could visit his children or whatever. There's so many little things, but because he never lost sight of everybody who worked at the football club being an individual in their own right, all working for a common goal. And I think it was that there's a phrase bandied around about a man of the people, and I think if anybody ever deserved that accolade, then it was Kun Vichai.
And I'm just looking then at the headline in the Mercury after it happened, Dreammaker. Through him, we lived our dream. I will never forget that year and I don't think anybody will ever forget that year. What he gave us in that year. You couldn't. I lived down in Bournemouth, and I couldn't walk down the street as I often did with my Leicester coat or something without somebody making a comment. He literally did make our dreams come true.
He did. I mean, how often can anyone say that they did that en masse? I don't think any Leicester fan, any real Leicester fan, would ever think they were going to see it in their lifetime. I certainly didn't. And I remember speaking to my dad, and my dad passed away last year, and having a conversation with him late on, and saying, one of the great things was that he actually saw Leicester win the league, which is something that he never thought of, I never thought of, and will probably never see again. Let's keep the dream alive. But if that were to happen, I remember speaking to my son. We managed to get to every home game, but we managed to get to a few away games during that season. I remember saying to him that this thing doesn't happen to us. If it was ever going to happen, it was going to happen to a Southampton or a Norwich, or it would be someone else. It would never happen to us. But it actually happened to us, to our team, our city. And it's just the hairs are standing on the back of my neck just thinking about it, because it is something that is just folklore, and as I say, and the greatest achievement in sporting history. It's just, and it was us.
Talking of sons as well, I can remember the following season. I never thought, I stood there with my son and listening to the Champions League music being played as we walked out. And, again, not only winning the championship, but actually, seeing us I was able to get tickets to all the home games, didn't get to go away. He went to, the away games and mingled with the crowd, which again, says what he's like. And he made my dreams come true, not just, on that one, but, it was a dream of mine to say I'm with my son watching Leicester in the quarter-final of the Champions League. I mean, it affected us all in such a way.
I remember for my son's 18th birthday, which was 2 years before we won the league, we'd always wanted to see a Champions League game. He's a huge fan of not only Leicester City but of Barcelona, and I decided for his 18th birthday we would go away. We went to Barcelona to see Barca play against PSG in the Champions League, and the one thing that we said was, let's face it, we're never going to see that here. We're never going to get to go and see a Champions League game at the King Power. So let's make a big special deal of it. We'll go away. We'll go to Barcelona and watch it. 2 years later, we've won the league. 3 years later, the music's playing at the King Power. It's just, even now, I'm not sure it really happened.
I've just put that picture up there, and I don't know if you can see it at your end as well, Craig. But that is how I think we will remember him, and that smile that he had, that he always seemed to be happy. Now, let me bring you back in, because you're showing me something there, and you are very small. So let me just get away from the picture and bring you in, and I shall make you
exactly the same.
Very large.
This is the photo that's treasured. This is up in our house of the fixtures and all the scorers of this picture, and so it's that picture, that moment, that dream when it came true, and it'll always be remembered, and just an unbelievable moment.
Good memories to have. And I mean, Andy, a couple of points. I'm going to bring them up in a different order to what he's put, just as we talk through them. He made other fans believe that the impossible can become possible. He did. I mean, clubs like the Norwiches, like the West Hams, like clubs that would never, think they could actually go ahead and win the Premier League. We'd shown, all right, it's not going to happen every season, but occasionally it can be done, and it gave other fans hope. And I think the outpouring of grief. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was going to say, I was just agreeing. It was a great point Andy makes there, and yeah, it did. It gave every other team, every other fan, hope that one day maybe it's them, or even, it got to a point where even making the top 4 was a pipe dream for every other club, or the top 6. It was a freak if you were going to get anywhere near, and he showed through that team that it was possible. And you're right, he gave other fans hope, and people still talk about it. It's still mentioned. You talk about, people are talking about the league this year and how open it is, but they always do it referencing Leicester, because it's happened before.
And I think the hope that he gave other fans, I mean, I was summed up when you looked at the shirts and the scarves that were laid outside the club. I mean, you can not like clubs, you can hate clubs for the rivalry that there is there. I personally hate Wolves, people hate Forest and what have you, but there was Forest shirts there, and it showed that at the end of the day, it is just a game. Have that rivalry for 90 minutes or 120 in penalties, if it is that. Come away, we are all fans of the same sport. I think that's one thing that I will never forget is the other shirts that were at the stadium, not just Leicester's. And another comment again that Andy's made here. I hope that's the same one. Sorry, let me bring this one. I think you've made the same point twice, Andy. There we go. He put Leicester on the map in Thailand. Not just that, he put Leicester on the map all over the world. I remember during that season, I was doing blogs and telephone calls, and, these sort of chats with radio stations from China. I did one in New Zealand, breakfast show in New Zealand, in Australia, so it was so hyper, it was like the wrong job. But, I'm sure everybody knows Lee Jobber. And I was ringing him up saying, mate, this Chinese news agency wants an interview on Thursday. I can't do it. Can you do that? He said, well, I can do that, but then can you do a New Zealand one for me on the Friday? A lot of people go on again about plastic fans, and I do get really annoyed. With success, you get fans following you from all over the world. That's what we've got. He put us on the map in Thailand, like Andy said, but all over the world.
It's funny. I was speaking to a friend of mine, is Italian, and they've just gone back over to Italy to see some family, and they had a conversation about Leicester, because they're not huge football fans, but it came up in a conversation, and their son started talking all about us winning the league, and the fact that Claudio was Italian, and the story of him promising all the players pizzas. It's folklore, and it's folklore all around the world, and we are on the map because of what he did for our club.
I was on holiday in Norway back in end of January, early February, when we could have holidays, and I'd gone right up over the Arctic Circle, right up and around the top of Norway, and on a cruise ship we docked, and we'd gone sort of an hour inland. We were trying to see the Northern Lights, and we were at this big campsite with these big tents and fires, hoping to see the Northern Lights. And it was about 12:30 in the morning. So 12:30 in the morning, an hour inland, right at the northern part of Scandinavia there is, and somebody shouted, "Oh, Leicester City!" And I looked round thinking, "What the hell?" And I'd forgotten I'd taken a scarf with me because obviously it's bloody cold up there. Taking it off because I was around the campfire, hung it on my belt as you do, a la 70s style, and you can see Leicester City. Now, this guy came up and he knew about us, obviously because of what had happened. I'm thinking, like, this is so surreal, but this is what it is like being a Leicester fan now, and that's all down to what to Vichai and his family.
Yeah, I think probably every Leicester City fan who's ever travelled anywhere has probably got a similar story. You just reminded me. I did the same in I was in Milan probably a couple of years or the year after we won the league, and I was forced obviously to go into an ice cream shop there against my will. But I was chatting and the guy behind the counter just asked where I was from, and I said Leicester. He said two words: Ranieri and Vardy, and that was it. It's just it's everywhere, and I'm sure every Leicester City fan has got their own story about that.
Even down in Bournemouth, I went into my local bank, and again because I worked in Bournemouth, I got my coat and I was going to transfer some money, and I had a little sort of badge logo on the side of the coat. And the girl behind us, "Oh, Leicester City, Mahrez, Vardy." I'm like, "Yeah, great season, isn't it? What team do you support?" I hate football. Knew of,
it transcended football.
Yeah,
it transcended football. It was the talk of everything, and I was just going to touch back on what Andy said about giving every football fan hope. I think what it also did, which is sort of overlooked a little bit, he gave the owners of other football clubs hope as well. And, that thing that they've been talking about in recent weeks about a European league or giving more power to the bigger clubs. Who knows? Without us winning, the other clubs may not have felt that they could do that. So they may have taken the best deal for them, knowing that, yes, the top six are the elite, fine. No one's ever going to break into it. But we did it. And I think that changed the mindset of a lot of owners as well, to say that, given a right bit of luck, but if they run their clubs in the right way, they could do it too. So I think it's transcended beyond fans down into owners as well, who believe that there is an opportunity.
And just to end on this, because we could literally still be here at 2:00 in the morning talking about this. It's our favourite topic, and the Premier League winning season, our favourite time to talk about. But respect to top. I mean, the worry was obviously when Vichai passed. What would happen to the club? Obviously, that came after, but there was that worry. Top, to be honest with you, is his dad can be up there looking down on top, very, very proud of what his son has done, since then.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was great. Once the period of official mourning was over, I think it was great for all the fans who were obviously worrying what was going to happen to the club, for Top to come out fairly quickly and make the statement that he was going to make sure that his father's vision became reality under him, that he was going to see it through, and then hopefully bring his own vision to what he wants as well. And we're already seeing that with the training ground progressing. But I think that was really important for every Leicester City fan who at the time, we were all in mourning and worried, but we were also worried about the future of the football club and what that meant. So again, for him to recognise that there was a worry and the concerns of the fans, and to put his own feelings aside, to actually come out and make the statement, said a lot about the man as well. And I think Vichai was just a great man, and his family is clearly in his own image, and they also feel that they have this duty to see that vision through for the fans.
And I don't think I could have put it better myself, Craig. Craig, on this sad anniversary, thank you very much for joining us. Looking
You're
back,
welcome.
sad memories, but memories, they are here, and whilst we have the club, Vichai's memory will long be with us. Thanks very much for joining us, Craig, and if I
Welcome.
don't see you before, I shall see you in a week's time.
Indeed. Cheers, Chris.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye. So thank you to everybody that tuned in and for your comments. A sad day, but one that we will forever remember. Can't do the walk this year, unfortunately. I know Leicester Fan TV are doing a V for Vichai campaign. So even if you look to yourself in the mirror, whatever it is, do a V for Vichai for Leicester Fan TV and give that your support. We have still got matches this week. We are in Europe on Thursday, so that means tomorrow night at 7:30. I shall be back again with Mark with the pre-European show. We'll be looking at the UK Athens clash. Remember, that's a 5 to 6 kickoff tomorrow, so it's a bit early. Thursday, sorry, it's a bit earlier. The show's 7:30 tomorrow. We'll be post-match that with Brad, and then on Friday we're going to have the 7:30 opposition view show, where we'll be talking to a Leeds fan. Nice to have them back or not to have them back? You'll let us know. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Hopefully see you on one of those shows. Take care, guys. And whatever you do, remember the most important thing, stay safe. Thanks for joining us. Good night now.